Chill here at Sirius Dallas Moon, and I stopped at the energy reading about the collapse of traffic in timelines. So let me talk about the energetics of how it happens. Basically, the traffic in timelines are trying to attach to someone's life energy to harvest from it. This is why they do the trafficking. This is why they practice that to begin with, and they transmute it into wealth in unwealthy ways. That's the thing, okay? It's trying to control life by trauma timelines and harvest the life energy at the same time. So it's antithetical, it's paradoxical, and this is why it's so volatile. More so than we know. Um, and people are awakening to that. So the way that exposure happens is that a person regains their sovereignty. First of all, they become aware. Okay, they become aware because the ways are less and less blunt. The ways are more and more blunt. Until a person becomes aware, and then when they become aware, they try to be less and less blunt about that because they have to remain unseen to still tap into that energy. However, they have to provide more and more. And the people begin to be sovereign, and they're like, wait a second, it's my life energy. It's my life energy and another life energy. And there were people that were trying to tap into a certain flow to try to take from that manifestation and put it to the dark. And this is, by the way, why they do trafficking. That's the point. To try to get people to emit life energy, which is sexual energy, to harvest that and to take that into the dark. To create real estate and in such a way that people will have to be having their energy harvested at work and at the real estate. And so, oh, sorry. More and more people begin to awaken to that now. It's the essence that the people that they try to harvest the energy of either are awakening to their own sensuality, and then they find out that, whoa, there are a lot of people that were just waiting for them to tap into their selves so that they can tap and participate. And they see that the people that began to tap into, particularly after the Me Too, the people that began to tap into their own sensuality, anything that was on Stockholm Syndrome was not applying to them because they already began to set the boundary. It was like a domino. But the thing is that they didn't even, it's kind of like you think about it, if you have an old plot of land and you begin to make a road within that plot of land, so there are many, old dry plants and things that seem to block the way, and it seems to kind of like make you wait. And then it's kind of like it almost tried to convince you that stay in your lane, this is not your path. But you forge a path within the trajectory that you were meant to, that is your lane actually. But it's because so many things were set for you to not even understand that you have a life energy, a kundalini energy, an own lane, an own identity, an own sovereignty. That they were trying to create a reality where you could only be sovereign as a sex worker in the street, or as somebody in a red light district, or which is of course not sovereign. And they worked relentlessly to collapse the timeline for you because they wanted to harvest on your energy and keep you in those real estates. And now what will happen is that as the connection, the tapping was created, it is not unilateral. It's bilateral. That's the essence of connection. Now, as much as they would try to blend, encrypt that, okay, then as much details are exposed about the essence of that trafficking networks. And as much gnosis is received, okay, as much gnosis is received about that, because they want your, if you tap into your, let's say, orgasmic power, manifest your desires, they want it to go through your getting the money by squashing your energy manifestation to a third party. Which is parasitic, because that would rain on your energy and they know it, but they still try to preserve a fictional entity, a fictitious entity. Now, economically, those are the fictitious, the fraud, fictitious money laundering timelines. And everything that they used to sustain collapses. Because if they don't have your consent, which they never have and never will have, then it is all volatile and it's created to be destroyed. And for them, they can only create, destroy, create, destroy, create, destroy, and then they live on this perpetual cycle of destruction. Now, the Estro Diverstigen very well exposed why this happens to the people that are really deeply in that timeline. Okay? But when it's in the light, more and more points of interference are opened. Okay, now it's open. All the big secrets of the secret societies are out. And now they can't recruit people because everybody knows that it's a hoax. They were creating not with their life energy. And they were tapping into the natural abilities of people by putting people in trauma. So the way in which those cults are exposed is that which try to attach to each and every individual energy, child, adult, man, woman, LGBTQ, cisgender, whatnot, begins to understand that those were not unilateral type of trajectories, those were bilateral trajectories, and basically they're being exposed and their stuff begin to collapse. And for them it was like a butterfly effect, because they did a monarch programming and their own monarch programming collapses on them, and they can be suddenly exposed that that thing about ritual abuse is not about the other people out there, and it's not a satanic panic, but it's actually something that they deal with. And it works so simple. When the Dutroux case was exposed in 1996, Anneke Lucas was like, wait a second. What happened? And she began to realize that this case was more connected to her than she ever believed. Now, how would that Dutroux case be exposed? That the energies that they try to attach themselves to, the life energy of girls, schoolgirls, or schoolboys, those would get, let's say, addicted to drugs. Then they recover from addiction to drugs. It sends ripples through the timeline. That are unstoppable. It shakes, it's like somebody is living in this moldy house, moldy this, moldy that, and then there is an earthquake. And pieces from the ceiling fall, and, and it's like the universe is like, tuk tuk, you can no longer live in that moldy place. And so they have to loosen the grip. They have to loosen the grip. And then loosen the grip, and loosen the grip. Because they cannot hold to that butterfly that they created. This is the butterfly effect, okay? All that try to attach yourself to it, try to attach itself to your life energy, to your sexual energy. When people are with themselves, trying to become a part of that. And then try to create something from that energy that you never consented to, then that will not be to their benefit. And if it's not for your benefit, and it's not for your consent, and it's not honoring of your life energy, it falls like the leaves. And this is how trafficking timelines collapse. And people become more aware of why did they even do that. Because yes, that sexual energy can manifest things in the matter, but they wanted to bring control into the equation. Slavery, subjugation, these are fictional entities. And they wanted those fictional entities to matter, and they can only use the life energy of the people to try to enforce that. And people, it's not that they take the power back, it's that they choose life. And when they choose the life, even those people that said, okay, even death, then what is not accessible? Then they began to manifest the possibility to die in a way that is without suffering, honoring, and so on. And that was taken away. It was set in a threshold. It's like, okay, we can't bring them to that. Now they're beginning to manifest the death, and it's a death code, mind you. Okay. Okay. If people couldn't manifest life, then they would try to manifest death. Or they would manifest global total nuclear holocaust of all the bunkers, of all the this, of all the that. Wait a second. We are supposed to explode the people, depopulate the people. But the people that we don't need, we don't. Not our bunkers. Now, the more that they try to keep people under a short leash, the more solutions collapse. Because when they try to create a problem to bring their own solution that is of subjugating form, the solution collapses. Now the only thing that would be allowed to existence is something that is even more free for the people. For example, if a woman could go to work and make money and write money in her own bank account, okay, for perspective of the people that wanted to tax her, it's like, okay, 50% of people want to be taxed. Why would I keep them from being taxed? But previously, that woman was not able to have her own fortune to leave the home. So it became not economic to not give women rights. But when they tried to harvest energy of people to put them into trauma, and people learn more and more ways to center themselves, to balance their nervous system. And they begin to transmute the darkness and the wounds and the fears upon which that was reliant on. Okay, before COVID, I'm half Israeli, half Dutch. To live in one room apartment, I said, I don't need more than that. In Netherlands, I will never get more than that. So I was in this Dutch cubicle mindset, and there was crisis. Because I definitely couldn't stay in a lockdown. I was twice in lockdown in the home for 2 weeks. This is when I understood, okay, I need a bigger mansion. Not something that I cannot clean by myself or not, but something that I can actually sustain it. That if there is lockdown, then I can travel in the yard, or I can do something that I would enjoy life, and then travel when it's clear. So it was allowed to have me living in a bigger house. It was not allowed to try to traffic me. That exposed and exposed and exposed and exposed and exposed and exposed and exposed, so much so that it got like a big mess that for many people it happened, not just me. And so much so, all the people that were the business and had to give due diligence after 5 years, all of the documents in the places they escaped from, now there's a lot of due diligence to do, because those people, they turn to the authorities, they turn to the tax authorities, they turn to everyone, said, hey, I couldn't do my due diligence, it's not that I made money in that time, because so and so and so. Now, because of the trauma, they could also not step to their estates. So they have their own pictures there, family pictures there. It's a crime against humanity. And this is on a mass scale. Now people, there will always be these loopholes, and they will hope that people wouldn't step to that loophole. For example, in COVID, when they gave fines for having no mask, people, by the masses, required to be standing in court to be judged. And they used the bureaucracy on the bureaucrats. They just exercised their given right to stand in the face of court and defend themselves. Not just pay a fine. And that technique dropped the fines. Now, when it's something that not many people understand, then there are trajectories like what happened with the vaccine. Because that was a collective shadow that the collective didn't tap into. For example, one day I was working in the garden and then I was sitting to relax. A kind man came to me and said, when you sit like this, people look. Come, sit here. And I said, you see, if somebody looks, he said, they look, they think bad things. I said, if somebody looks, you take Kalashnikov, you hit them right between the eyes, so they never think even. Now, of course, maybe they sent this person to try to kindly police where people sit and where people not. And he might not be aware of that, he come from culture where that was normal. But I didn't mistreat him. I said to him, thank you. Have a beautiful day. But I also asserted what needs to be done with those people who think such thoughts. Now, and this is exactly how would the trafficking timelines collapse. If you constrict women to a kitchen, you nucleify the food like a radiation, like an atomic bomb. Okay, it's a centrifugal. You condense, 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 and it boom. And Light mentioned another thing. She mentioned the story of Medusa. And she said that people wanted to make of the people that speak a cautionary tale, so that they wouldn't think even to speak. They wanted to cause didu to people. So people will be cautious of speaking up and being in their own energy, so that they wouldn't be turned into this Medusa story. But those that try to do this stuff, trafficking timelines, and those that get paid to assist them, they have to deal with the existential crisis around their own deeds. And they have to think very, very well what steps they took, okay, to try to create those trafficking timelines for people. Because just like that story about the energy that projected itself because it wanted another person to feel rejection, and it did meticulous work to try to arrange that, only to feel rejected again by this person. Then, then think about the people that try to meticulously create a timeline where someone is trafficked. These people better tend to abolish human trafficking. If they are at least a bit smart. And it's exactly in those ways, because they do that to harvest energy, then it exposes everything that they were, secrets that they were not even thinking. Now everybody knows, yes, this psychologist, he was trafficking children. Where is Chaim Nut? Now they're looking for this girl. And when they are looking, the channelers will be channeling, the astrologers will be astrologizing. They will look into more and more people that were missing. I talked about the 2012. Okay, and Neptune at the end of Pisces. And, you know, I did not make it up. Yes, I did not make it up. Because now those things, in a mysterious way, begin to unravel. Because people tap into those timelines, tap into those energies. And anybody that was reliant, I hope they were not reliant on the livelihood. But even if, then those of them that always wanted to not be reliant on crime, on the livelihood, then the trajectories will begin to open. But they will have to undo the damage that they've done. And then they will be able to open trajectories for them to have resources. And trying to pretend like one is the other is not going to work for them. Because the more they will try to hide and masquerade their identity, and the more they will try to make it look like, now here's the thing, when certain people were used to have such control over the conversation and the energy and the this and the that they say, oh, come talk to me, like come, and so on. But they were gaslighting, then the other person wouldn't come talk to them, because the other person knew that that is not going to be a conversation between equals. And so to the other people at the beginning they look like, oh yes, that person won't even face them like a normal human being. But now there is a recovery of those trajectories. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There is a recovery of those trajectories, which means, yes, with you. Which means that now everybody sees that that person that was withdrawn, that didn't want to participate in another humiliation ritual against them. Look at this moon on Uranus as I speak. That person was simply being embodied. And even if it doesn't look well, they did not do something that is undermining themselves. And all of the people around begin to understand that there was a hidden power abuse there that affected the ability of the person that was harmed to communicate and to speak. And or that one person, in other cases it was, okay, like after I went to therapy, yes, one person, let's say the psychologist, is in a secret society that is like trafficking, not like trafficking people, but Epstein called and all those trajectories. And he's probably programmed and only half-time conscious, half-time not. And then the patient speaks. And so they say that either the person that doesn't speak is because there was hidden power abuse, or that the person that doesn't speak is in that secret society. And the reason that they don't speak can have to do both with what they had to do, but also with the fear that they will be slaughtered by the secret societies, which proves that the testimony of the patient is true. Now here's the thing. It's just by the very attempt to attach energies, to use even hypnosis, taking drugs and using hypnosis from afar. And again, because the more they put people in trauma timelines, the more they're susceptible to those hidden mechanisms. But because it's done on such a megalithic level, so many people already know that this is what's happening. And anybody that supported these timelines, okay, if I think about the time where we were turning a lost plot of land into a community garden, then we put on the gloves and we picked the condoms, and we were like cleaning the energy of the soil. Because before that, there were working ladies there. And there was not working ladies who were taking their jobs. There were women that were trafficked, and then they were provided housing. Because they were forced to provide public housing to these women. Now that there came a group of students that turns the soil into a community garden, repurposes the soil. Those ladies were not, they didn't lose their jobs, their income, no. They went from being trafficked to having public house that up until the students arrived was not even arranged for them. Not even their families could do anything. And those that try to turn neighborhoods into such neighborhoods with the crime and trafficking and so on and so forth, and try to keep people from having the income to live in a proper place, okay, for them, or to turn the place to a proper place, because they try to traffic the people, those timelines collapse, because the more they try, the more of this trajectory is being exposed. And the more of the projects begin to collapse, everything that they built on the energy of the people, they begins to collapse. And sometimes it looks like, oh my God, these good things collapse, what happened? It was not this good thing. It's this thing that was built on the foundation of exploitation and extortion. This collapses. And then it's kind of like when, there's no milk, there's no milk, there's no milk. And then people grow sheep, okay? And they suddenly find, oh, I have milk. And it's like, oh my God, what is this milk? I never tasted anything like it. It's so good. Of course, this is milk coming from the sheep, not coming from the factory. Today, for the first time in my life, I saw color of egg yolk that when it is red, it is chickens that really grew in a freedom environment. Then the egg yolk is actually red. And I'm like, oh my God. I knew about orange egg yolk, but I didn't know about red. And this was from a woman that was targeted individual. And she lived in Alaska. So what will happen? Oh my God, the factories collapse. There's no food, there's no food. They took the poison out of the table. Oh my gosh, there's no housing and no houses and no this and no that. Okay, then let's build houses. It's not a problem. With mud, with mud it's possible to build a house. Put a solar panel, better insulation. Oh there. Hello there. Better energy. No rituals were done on the estate. Nobody tells you within 5 years you will get at this estate, and then you wait 5 years and it's like, where is the project? Where is the this? Where is the that? Oh, they took the money, they went out. No house flippers. But also it's not like what was before. It's better. Because before a woman didn't have sovereignty. She was in the kitchen in her gender role, and she had sovereignty. She could poison the husband. Okay. But after we learned that, okay, women can also be athletic and so on, and men can also work in the garden, and we don't have to succumb to the same, gender roles and so on and so forth. And also we learn to relax into ourselves. So those people that cannot see a woman walking in the garden without seeing in their mind the sex worker, they have to fall. Their vision has to fall like the leaves from the tree. And I hope they're not too attached to that point of view or to that vision. Because if they are going to fall with the leaves over nothing. And it's going to be masses. Yet it's going to be masses of people that are going to collapse in this form. Those people that were not okay with the woman having her own job, her own money in the West, okay, they fell like the masses. And now with those trafficking timelines, after the Me Too, after all of the women, they began to understand that the overgrowth of yeast was both the processed food, okay, and not waiting until she's ready. And they could have had sex they considered good sex with their boyfriends, husbands, or whatnot. I'm not talking about sex workers even at all. But they were not paying attention to make it when they're ready. Now, with those that tried to give commands, they were not bringing the water, they were bringing peace. Those that try to decide, remember the gaslighting, okay, the Pluto in Aquarius, the Pluto in Capricorn, where everybody became aware that the people, they try to decide for people what they feel, to decide for people what they think. And people began to resist that, rebel that, like Chaver. No, not wanting that nobody will decide for me how I think, what I feel, and also not if I'm ready or not. And this began to be discussed from discussed, okay, from the timelines and the people that were thinking like traffickers. They were doing mockery to the authentic, original expression of the self. And they began to evoke disgust, hatred, because they came with hatred timelines. Then what happened? They died by the masses. Because they were carrying such baggage on people that they projected things to that they absolutely not related to them. That they didn't survive the move to an economy where woman has her own rights. They fell with the leaves because they couldn't even envision an economy where woman goes to work, has her own money, is being treated well at work. They couldn't envision such a timeline. And when people began to make it a standard, the Me Too went of the women, the feminism, the this, the that, over nothing. They were just reliant on living and harvesting from energy of women. And then blaming the women for seeing them as ATM. Because they would take from her life energy, manifest things, and then they would try to use this to get attention of another young girl and another young girl. And when she would want money, okay, because she has to raise the kids, or she wants time for herself, and she wouldn't have her original energy, then would say she sees it like an ATM. But the wife took all the money, took all the this, she didn't take all the money. If you would honor her energy, her orgasm, her own sensuality, that would sustain. But they learned from these role models that are cult-like, and they're being red-pilled, and then they say this red pill ruined their lives. Because you see that the men that didn't go for that, they have partners, they have good life, they have good families, all the things that those that try to preach a traditional family life don't have, but these people have. And the people that were building on trafficking timelines, they were the people that if a woman walks around her own yard, it's like, oh my God, people will think thoughts. What thoughts? Then shoot them dead. If they think to rape a girl or to rape a woman that just walks around the garden, shoot them dead. They have no business thinking thoughts or acting actions against the women for celebrating their right to walk, to work in the garden, to take a walk at night around the block. If it's not possible, then shoot entire community of those who think it's okay that they cannot do that women cannot just walk around the block, not being sex work and not selling any sex. Shoot them all dead. They have no right to exist. And indeed, they would die by the masses. Because it is known that the individual energy is individual energy. And when people, they can only sustain on trying to fool the people into believing that it's coming from the outside. That somebody deceived them from the outside. When it's in fact their own energies and their own orchestration and rituals that were done on them to make them not even see that they have power, see that they have the source of love within themselves. See that they are that wealth and well-being. somebody trying to prove and say, hey, your power, your this, come from me. Well, who are you? You're a person like me. My power comes from me, your power comes from you. If we unite on a vision that we share, we will have our shared power. But it cannot be with subjugation, timeline, trying to force someone into doesn't work like that. And what's built on that is rocky foundations. It collapses. And to keep people in state of perpetual building on rocky foundations so that it will collapse is also not sustainable. Hello. And this is exactly the trajectories that are happening towards the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Everybody that was building on. Now, here's the thing. To those people that were sustaining on trafficking others, they will get caught up in their own trajectories. So it's going to look like colonialism, genocide, false flag. To those, and here's the thing, to those women, just situation like what was when I was, working in the garden and then sitting to rest, to absorb the energy. To those women, they would say, oh, sir, and then would smoke a cigarette with that person and not sit alone as a woman and not be alone, never accompanied by men, and think this is okay. Not this is not okay, but I don't know what to do, how to protect myself, let's say when I travel and so on. But we think, no, this is okay, a woman should not do like that. These women are more susceptible. They're more susceptible because, and those men too, because they are not connected with their own sovereignty. That if somebody works in the garden and they sit, they water the garden and they sit to absorb the energy, the nervous system health, that this is something to look at, like, is this person a sex worker? Then, if people think this is okay, then they are susceptible to many, many, many things. It also exposes what people think about people and what people think that can be done to people under certain conditions. And Neptune in Aries is going to work like that a lot because it's the veil of ignorance. Now, for a lot of generation that is neurodivergent, okay? they naturally, if you see behavior of neurodivergent people, they naturally not succumb to certain societal norms. And they sense, they might not know to explain this, but they sense certain trajectories. And we call them neurodivergent. So what we see, and we're going to see a lot of people exposed, and it's going to be in various ways, because it might not be in the media as people think about the media, but it just might be that because of this butterfly effect of the disentanglement from monarch projects, then there's going to be complete and total collapse on what was built on that monarch programming. So those that try to delay the awakening of people better do two things. One, plan for sovereignty. And two, understand that the more that they delay or the more that they suppress, for example, a couple of times they would attempt to shut down my channel or make me not post something. Each and every time it was successful, eventually I would have a channel even bigger and expose even more. Talk about even more. Now, when there were attempts to make me expose certain things that were not for to be exposed, then what would be exposed is what they didn't want to be exposed. And the more they try to craft a certain image of me or of you, the collective, to craft a certain image, the more that fell out flat, both because the audience did not interpret it correct, or the audience went to check, and then they saw, okay, there's something else going on here. Okay, think about it. A lot of people now, people come to check if they are really eligible for the assistance that they receive, and so on and so forth. Then they begin to hear the real story. Now, if any person is actually receiving something, they are receiving the tip of the iceberg for what the actual problem was. So those people that think that they are going to make justice and see and da. Now, if they are not in it with if they are in it with the other people, then they themselves would be exposed in ways they didn't even fathom. For example, I gave example of the woman that talked to me, and then she said her family member is a construction, has construction or whatnot, and I said if he has construction, then did he not see ritual abuse? How come he was shocked in 7th October? And so I didn't catch her, and she even said to me, you are very smart, I see. And I saw it was weird, but I'm so neurodivergent that I didn't even catch that. And then I was like, I was not taking her on the this, on the that, and it was like, yep, ritual satanic abuse in real estate, in his estates where he is doing construction. So you tell me that he is shocked by seeing disintegrated bodies in 7th October. On that. And she like, I don't know, you will have to talk to him. Well, he's not shocked from seeing the disintegrated bodies. If he's construction, they're doing real estate by ritual abuse. Now the entire train heard that. Okay, so that I'm not to blame that she came and tried to draw my attention in the train, and then of course the entire Facebook know that. Now, if those people are really people, that they said, okay, they have this narrow thinking and they see, okay, let's check if this person is not, trying to corrupt the system and so on and so forth. They check, they talk to the person and say like, okay, I see not only that you had this problem, but this problem was the result of something else that you had, that they didn't give you with the proper assistance that they need to give you, and then they found themselves paying for your degree. Because otherwise you would have tried to kill yourself. It's like, okay, this is already big. This is already something that they need to pay, not just the compensation, the little that you get, but also not housing, assisted housing, but housing, a house with the land, with everything, with none of your life expenses ever having to think about even, because they did a crime against humanity. So for a lot of you collective at this time, and now they will come with that information to the ones that sent them. And if they are, okay people, they just, kind of pedant. In Hebrew we call it yeke, okay, yodik shavana. It's basically hard of understanding Jew, okay? And if they are like this pedant person and so on and so forth, then they will just see it's even worse the problem, and they would come to the ones that sent them. Now one of two things would happen. First of all, those that sent them weren't sending them to give more money to people. They were thinking that they would catch all these people that came to fool the system, and what they find out is that those people not came to fool the system. If they got for one problem, is basically after it escalated so much, and they basically get not the tip of the iceberg of the rights that are actually deserving for them. Now they come with all of this news, and it's like, okay, I came for you. How many people were fooling the system? It's like, fooling the system. That person got for their mental crisis that they almost wanted to kill themselves after nobody was giving them assistance when they couldn't walk on their feet, and they basically was not wanted to work. And this is how they got into that. They wanted to work. Somebody said, no, sign unemployment. And they said, no, give me work. And then they gave them one committee, and they said, okay, I just need for my feet. Either I don't know why I'm staying here. Why cannot we have workplaces that are adaptable, or sometimes to sit, sometimes to stand? And then they tried this job and this job and this job and this job. They became so horrified that they said, give me studies or give me this. And another person, they tried to have their own business. And they were growing the child. They didn't want the welfare to take the child, like Heimnut. And so they were trying to grow their own business, but each time the people that saw the talent in them, they began to flood the market and not sell them and not this and not that. So they couldn't anymore. Then they helped their parent. And so they couldn't. And nobody, and what they were suffering from was not a place that they can go into closed building because it's to do with trauma. So the child tried to help, so the child eventually got a tiny little bit from what the family should have gotten, probably. Now, those that send them see that and say, okay, we're going bankrupt. Because now all the people that they send to check, they're like, okay, these people are like, okay, what are we going to do with that? They thought to save money. They realized that there are not even the tip of the iceberg, people are not even receiving. Now what's going to happen? Because they sent them to begin with because they said, oh, we're going to go bankrupt.